Hi, everybody. I'm Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. My guest today is one of the absolute joys of my life, one of the strongest women I've ever met either. Host at WCCO Radio, Jordana Green, but she's also so much more than a radio host. She's a leukemia warrior, former TV news anchor, an amazing mom, wife, daughter, just human, and the Rhoda to my Mary. I cannot wait for this conversation. Jordana Green is coming up. So yes, Jordana Green is here. Jordana, I love calling you the Rhoda to my Mary. Most people are like, what? Because young kids don't even know what that means anymore.
It's an honor to be your Rhoda. I mean, you've been calling us that for over 20 years, sister.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, so just the backstory for people like, what? When I first joined Fox 9, Jordana was at UPN and our desks were right near each other. And I was having a very hard time adjusting to Minnesota. I admit that. I have to tell you that. I was in Chicago before coming here. And, you know, I was like, well, I didn't find people to be all that friendly. And then sitting right next to me is Jordana Green, who's like, hey, how are you? I'm originally from Jersey. How about you? And I was like, oh my gosh, I was born in Jersey. I was raised in Massachusetts. You were like my Rhoda. And you were like, you are a little white bread Mary. So that's what you said. And I will take it. So you are always the Rhoda to my Mary. How are you, Jordana?
I am well. Oh my gosh, those days seem like a long time ago. It wasn't really that long, maybe 2 decades. But we had some fun. We had some fun in the newsroom. I know, it's crazy. Well, Dawn, here's really gonna take you back. What I'm doing right now, I'm not in studio with you. And the only reason I'm not is because I am in Athens, Georgia, moving my youngest child, for whom you were there when I brought her home from the hospital, to Eden Prairie, and moving her into college today and for the next 2 days. So that's why I'm here, and a way to make us both feel super old.
I know, that's a dagger right to my heart. I even remember poor little girl. I won't even say her name. I'm keeping her private just so she doesn't know. You had her in a car seat. You brought her to my house. And that's right before we were all going to lunch. My refrigerator caught on fire. Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh my God. That was crazy.
I don't know if you remember that. My refrigerator, literally,
yes.
Everyone, I was like, what is that smell? It smells like a burning Barbie doll. Can you smell it?
Yes.
And because my sense of smell is unbelievable. And then all of a sudden I looked at, and I'm like, I'm sniffing. I go, is it behind my refrigerator? And then all of a sudden, literally, as soon as I moved the refrigerator away from the wall, sparks, flames coming out. And I was like, what? So I remember you and we fanned them out. We pulled the plug, and you said, what are you going to do? I said, let's go to lunch.
I grabbed the infant car seat.
Catch on fire now.
That's right.
Oh, my goodness.
I do remember that. Oh, good for us. Firefighters. We'll add that to the resume, girl.
That's right. And now she's in college. So woohoo. All right. We kept her alive. So Jordana, I know that for your career, you are always interviewing people, and it's always weird when you may have to be interviewed. But I love on this podcast to feature strong, intelligent women, and you always have come to the forefront of my mind. So I'm so glad I could finally have you on. And first and foremost, congrats. For how many years now have you been on WCCO Radio? I mean, what an amazing run you're having there. It's a great, great show as well.
Thank you so much. By the way, I'm going to be in a puddle of tears when I say goodbye to my third born. So I don't know how strong I'll be then, Dawn, but thank you for the accolades. I appreciate that. Let's see. I've been at CCO since, 2012. And generally, a journalism major doesn't do math, but I'm going to assume that's about 13 years.
Yeah, we don't do math.
We don't do math.
How has the show changed you?
You know, it's interesting because the show itself has changed. When I got hired, I was doing a night show. And nighttime radio audiences are very different than daytime radio audiences. So I got used to being up late with the people with insomnia who were, out there watching for UFOs, and it was fun. And then I started working. It was fun. I started working in the afternoons with John Williams, and then got my own show in the afternoon with Paul Douglas of weather fame here at in Minnesota. Paul and I were friends. But the show kind of evolved into more news and politics. And now I do a morning show, which is, of course, news and politics and some fun as well. How has the show changed me? It has given me such a glimpse. Me, the carpetbagger, that's what they called me when I first got to CCO radio. It tells a lot about our listenership and people from the outside because, I'm from Jersey. And it wasn't just Jersey. It was Jersey and then New York and Pennsylvania and then Indiana. And then I moved here. Pennsylvania, I also lived. And then I moved here. So, the show changed me because I really felt for the first time that I had a home base, like that all of a sudden Minnesota had become my home. I had lived there, was on the air for 13 years before that on TV. And now I was on radio, and I did feel like, okay, it's time to really get to know my people, the people this is my chosen home. I grew up in New Jersey, and I'm East Coast generally, but this is where I chose to live. It wasn't just Pennsylvania or Indiana, my other markets that I was in. I chose to stay here. So it's changed me, and I'll be completely honest, it's made me nicer. I am a nicer person getting out of Jersey. I don't know if you feel that way, too, getting out of Boston, but I am nicer. They taught me to slow down. They taught me to chill out. Not everything has to get done today. They did. And I am definitely nicer.
It's interesting you say that. When I was in college, my college roommate said, "You can't go into journalism, Dawn. You will be walked over. You will be stepped on. You were too nice. You're too nice." Like, because I was like the doormat of East Coast people. I really was. And I had to, believe it or not, being in journalism and sports as a woman, there was a turning point at one point in my career where I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. The people are so mean. East Coast people are so mean. My family is not. Like, I'm not built for this. And I had to get kind of a shell. I had to, my skin had to get thicker. But I had to get a shell too, where, listen, Dawn, you can't let these people walk on you. Like, it's against my nature to stand up for myself, which is so funny when people say, what? And I said, and it's a learned behavior for me. But I do agree, going back to the East Coast sometimes, just in general, that like I said, would I have become hardened? Would I have become more? Because I wasn't yet, but I was getting beat up by it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I would have never thought to think that, But, I didn't really swear till I got to Minnesota. So I don't know what that means. So
I also don't believe
that's a whole
that.
different thing. It might just be merging. It might be the merging that caused me to find, like, my friends are like, you never swore growing up. And I'm like, I know. And like, what's Minnesota done to you? So they joke around that way. Yeah, Minnesota, nice. Now you swear. And I said, only when I'm merging. Only when I'm merging. But
funny.
I do agree in many respects that here's a quick story. So I went back to Boston, and now I was not raised in the city. I was raised more towards Cape Cod. So when people are like, oh, you're tough, you got 4 brothers, you can take it, you're from Boston, I'm like, I could throw a seashell at you and maybe some sand, but and I'll find an R and throw it in one of my words, like I'm not from the city, I'm not the departed, it's not the town for me, but I did go home, and I was taking the shuttle for the one time someone couldn't pick me up, so I was taking the shuttle to go to the T, and so I get on the shuttle taking me to the T, and there's this one woman cussing out this family that was just kind of standing there and not really moving fast enough to take their seat. And so I just looked at the couple across from me, and I said, well, I'm not in Minnesota anymore. I'm definitely back home in Boston.
Yeah,
and they said, oh, you're from Minnesota? So are we. And they looked terrified. And I said, trust me, we're not all like that. And then I realized, you know what? I'm not in Minnesota anymore. Yeah, like people will just yell at you. Like, get out of my way. Rah, rah, rah. And it's like, oh my gosh, but we're not all like that, really. Like I felt I was apologizing 5 minutes off the plane to Minnesotans for the behavior of this Boston woman yelling, but it's not all like that. But I understand 100% when you say it's made you nicer. And I think people in the Midwest get more sleep, like their news is an hour earlier and the stores don't open till 10. That's my thing. They're nicer because they get more sleep.
I'll take it. I like sleeping more. I love that the late night news is not the 11 o'clock news. It's the 10 o'clock news. Trust me, that was a nice adjustment. I love to sleep. Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. And so when you started doing the radio show and you said it's morphed now into news and politics, what I love about you, I know you very well, but I love when you look at your social media page and you're like, I'm your Minnesota Jewish person. Now you know one. And I am like, wow, she cracks me up, right? So, being raised, Irish Catholic in Boston, and I first came here and I couldn't find a church. And I think you and I bonded because you're like, well, imagine how I am trying to find a kosher deli. I love now, though, that you can take it this next step, and in your platform, you can speak your heart. They allow you to speak your heart, and you have been one of the strongest voices to bring these Israeli hostages home, and to speak what's on your heart and in your mind, and to educate people. Do you feel like this has been such a heartbreaking, but also such a moment for you to use your power?
Oh, there's so much to unpack with this, Dawn.
So much.
And so much. I mean, and thank you, by the way, for being a true ally, to me and the Jewish people. You've been so open-minded despite all the propaganda that most people see. So you've always been a good supporter. So I of me and everyone. So thank you so much. This has been probably the most important thing that I've talked about, the most important thing that I have lived through. And remember, I lived through 9/11. And that was I was on the air here at Fox, on the air here the day of 9/11. I remember running into the studio when that happened. There were so many terrible, horrible, and great and life-changing things. But October 7th of 2003 was one of the worst days in my life and one of the worst days for Jews all around the world. And since October 7th, we have seen an enormous rise in anti-Semitism, rise against Jewish people. And when you say that I use my platform, that is my handle on Twitter. For Twitter, it's Minnesota's Jewish friend. Now you can say you have one. Because when I first got on the air and openly talked about the fact that I was even Jewish, people would say like, oh my gosh, I love the Jewish people, or we talk about Jews in our church. Many Minnesotans had never met one. Wow. And I thought, oh, wow, I'm really sort of out of my league here. I grew up in New Jersey. There's Jews there. And here, there weren't as many. We have a small but mighty Jewish community. They call it St. Jewish Park for a reason. That's where most of us live. And because that's where our synagogues are and that's where we're based. But I did feel a responsibility to speak out on behalf of my people. And I do. And what's happened since October 7th, and for those that are not following as closely as I, and I don't blame people for not. In America, you think, oh, what does this matter to me? It's another war in the Middle East. They have wars all the time. I understand all of that. I want to be a place, a source for the truth that, as I can see it, I want to be a source for anti-Semitism. For, a voice for what is really happening in Israel and to the Jewish people and to Jewish kids on college campuses. To me, every day on the text line, because despite the fact that Minnesotans, we don't have a large Jewish population, there's still anti-Semitism out there. Of course, not everybody, but there are still some strong ones. And the propaganda campaign that has been or is being conducted against Israel and against the Jewish people, and I'm talking about from legacy media, from the New York Times, from Time Magazine, from the Associated Press, specific articles that are blatantly anti-Semitic or blatantly carrying the water for terrorist organizations like Hamas. has been unconscionable. And I call it out on my show and a lot on my social media. I have had friends at work, people who work in the news business, that say, Jordana, I never heard those things about Israel or anti-Semitism except from your social media. Now, there's a couple things about that comment, which is super sad that somebody in news is not seeing this almost war on Jews globally. The Intifada has been globalized. You know, Jewish people are getting shot in the streets of New York City and murdered. And the fact that they're not hearing about it, that the voices are so against us and against anything that Israel does. I just want to be a source for some truth, some honesty. Israel is not perfect. Jews are not a monolith. We are not perfect either. But there has been a coordinated effort to defame Israel and a rise in anti-Semitism. And if I can be the only Jew on the air, or at least at, talking about this that I know about in the Twin Cities, I am happy to carry that torch and take the heat, because it's a lot of heat as well. And I don't even know if I answered your question with that big, long answer, but it's been one of the hardest times on my life, in my life personally, since October 7th, 2003, and definitely professionally since the 7th of October.
Yeah, that's why I said it's heartbreaking. But in overall, if you will, if you'll let me kind of make this connection, I think you are in the right place at a perfect time, because the voice is needed. And the fact that CCO gives you that platform and doesn't say, can you just shy away? Can you talk about like recipes? You know what I'm saying? Like we know some places they'll kind of drive you away if they feel like you're getting too pointed. So I say kudos to CCO, kudos to you. But you were born to be in this position, but it is heartbreaking, and it must be extremely difficult, is what I was saying.
It is. It is difficult. And yes, I receive hate. My children have received hate. Like, that's real. Just for being Jewish. We're not Israeli, but I have a connection to my land. I sent my children to study abroad in Israel for semesters. They have all visited. I have taken a group of CCO listeners, on a CCO tour to Israel.
Wow.
So I am very connected to my homeland and will, share truth and just common sense. There's two sides in this war. There's Israel, and they're fighting terrorists. They're not fighting the Palestinian people. They are fighting the terrorists of Hamas. And the two are being conflated. And or the moral clarity on each side is conflated. This is a fight against terrorism. And I just want people to understand that, because they're definitely not hearing it in legacy media, which has been, honestly, as a journalist first, I don't consider myself a journalist anymore. I'm just a talk show host now, but I used to be when I was a news anchor and reporter. I used to be a journalist. And I don't know if you're watching this story as closely, Dawn, but legacy media has been so disappointing. One of the greatest disappointments of my life, to watch the New York Times print a propaganda picture claiming it was starvation when it was really a kid with spina bifida on their front page, and not print an actual hostage who was starving, who was being forced by Hamas to dig his own grave in the tunnels of Gaza, where he has been for almost 700 days, almost literally 2 years, and not even cover that story. I feel like me, little talk show host with, tens of thousands of listeners here in Minnesota, is fighting these monolithic legacy mediums. And it's hard. It's hard.
I said we could probably do a whole show just on how hard it is. So I just want to say, because every time I either turn on the radio to listen to your show or look at your social media or try to send a text, I'm always trying to be supportive, because, I said, I just can't even imagine. And we all grew up, or we should have. I don't know where where they went to school and stuff, but we all grew up knowing about the Holocaust. And I know for me, learning about that as a young child, like, I would be, first of all, I was horrified that ever happened. At first, I was like, what? And there's a Holocaust, and it's not a museum, but it's a artwork, but it's, if you go to Boston, right by Faneuil Hall, I don't know if you've been there, and they have
the art installation where it's a walk. The walk.
Yes. So installation,
Yes,
that's the word I was looking for. And it's the most powerful thing. If anyone goes to Boston, you're by Faneuil Hall, it's the most powerful thing. And it's one of those that I don't know. I just feel that. Like I said, I'm not Jewish, but when I was younger and we saw all the movies and the film clips and we learned about it, I was in first and second grade when I first found out, learned about it. And then the art installation in Boston. And when I was in college, I didn't even know. This is where I think something like the Holocaust is so insanely evil for me to the core. I didn't even know at that point in college what those tattoos of the numbers on the arms looked like. And there was this woman and her daughter, and they were older than I was, but the daughter I wouldn't say was old. Maybe she was in her 30s at this point, but the mother was a little older. And they were holding on to the straps at the T, like when you stand up on the train. And I saw, and this was before tattoos became as prolific as they are now, like really only people in the Navy or, biker gangs had them, right? And I saw numbers tattooed on their arms. And I immediately felt like I was going to cry, and I did not know what it was, but I felt evil. Like that's what I did. I felt evil. So I remember, I was on my way to catch the train to go home. And so I remember asking my mom, and she's like, do you know what that is? And my mom explained to me what it was. And she's like, how incredible in a sad way that your body knew that it was evil before you even knew what it was.
Wow. How
I was just like, what was that? And so for me, it's always been an ally that we cannot, as human beings, ever let something like that happen again in our lifetime. I wasn't alive, obviously, when the Holocaust happened, but in my lifetime, like humans are humans, and we have to try to help each other. And in terms of, it's hard to switch away from one topic to another. But this is in theme of you being just an incredible, strong warrior, and why I really wanted to highlight you to people who listen to this podcast. You have gone through a battle of literally a life for your own life, being a leukemia warrior. And that has been something that I have just been amazed at watching you go through. And now that I see you, I don't know if you're ever on the other side of it, right? Are you ever, after going through a battle for your literal life? But you've had a donor and you are healthy, amazing, living life. Can you tell our listeners what rare form of leukemia that you had and how you got to be so healthy now and on the other side, so to speak?
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Yes. And
cry
switching
here.
No, I know. Celebrating victories in times of darkness. I mean, that's a very, Judeo-Christian value. That's so yes, we can celebrate the wins and talk about hard things. So we're commanded to do that. So we're doing that now. Yes, thank God. In 2020, during COVID, of all things, I was diagnosed with T-cell ALL. It is really mostly a pediatric form of leukemia. My kids always make fun of me that I was diagnosed with pediatric leukemia, but because I'm not really a grown-up, I never became an adult. So, it sucked. I mean, it was a blow. I was a perfectly healthy person, doing a lot of yoga. I eat well. It was a shock. And just came out of nowhere. I was just feeling tired. And my doctor kept diagnosing me with depression because, it was COVID times. So everybody was home. And, but it was crazy. I was in my late 40s. I think I was 47 at the time. And here we go. I got some blood work done. They rushed me to the hospital. They're like, now you cannot leave and you have to be treated either at the University of Minnesota or at Mayo because you have this leukemia and it's very aggressive and 96% of your basically blood is leukemic. So I was like, can I curse on this podcast?
Sure. Alex will take care of that. Yes. Our producer, Alex, will determine.
Right.
But,
yeah.
wow.
That sucked. And
I
to
never
make a
knew
long
that
story,
part.
It was crazy.
96%.
It was fast. Yeah, it was fast. And we don't have stages in leukemia, but it was fast. And they're like, you need treatment right now. So that's what happened. I said, you got to give me a night. My kids were in college. My oldest was graduating from high school. You know, I said, you got to give me a night. Let me please go home with my kids, explain this to them. And, you know, I had 3 teenagers. All of a sudden, I'm leaving for months. It was because you had to move in. You have to be sequestered when you have the kind of chemo that I had, and you have to live at the hospital. So that's what happened. Like in 2 days, I was transferred to Mayo. And I started my treatment. And I did 8 rounds of chemo. I would come back intermittently to recover. So I got to see the kids and you know, come home a little bit. I tried to work throughout. But after 8 rounds, I was cleared of cancer. But unfortunately, 8 months later, it recurred. And I will say that when I was first diagnosed, Dawn, I knew I was going to be okay. I was like, oh, well, this sucks. But, you know, it's cancer. People survive cancer. And I got this. No worries. I'll get a bunch of chemo. Sure, I might lose my hair. Like, I had a really good attitude. But I'm going to be okay. And I have to live. I have 3 kids and a husband. Like, I have to live. I can't die yet. I got stuff I got to do. I want to dance at weddings. And I mean, come on. I was busy. Right. Too busy for cancer.
Right.
When it came back, Dawn, that's when all of a sudden I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to die. And I really thought I was going to die because I had beat it. But I didn't. And it came back so quickly. And I thought, okay, this is it. And Dawn, I started making videos for my kids because I knew I was going to die. I was like, I can't beat it. And I made videos for them on their wedding nights. I made videos for them when they turned 21, when they graduated high school, when they graduated college. I have a series of videos that still live in folders for my children and my husband on my desktop because I was convinced I was going to die. And at that point, my only option was bone marrow transplant. When I was first diagnosed, they had identified a donor that they reached out to, that matched me. Thank God I had a match through an organization called NMDP, the National Marrow Donor Program, based right in here in Minneapolis. And it's a global organization, though, which just happens to be based here. And they found me a match and reached out to him, and he agreed to donate. It was a young man. He agreed to donate from New York. I, of course, didn't know him. We're not related. And they prepared me for a bone marrow transplant, which I had 3 years ago, May 26th, okay, on the 2022. And that was the hardest thing. The recovery from a bone marrow transplant is not an easy thing because they basically take you, they empty you of all good things in your body. They get you to as close to dead. They pump you with so much chemo. They get you as close to dead as you can be. And they infuse you with new bone marrow and basically build you back up. And it sucks. The whole thing sucked. I won't go into details. It sucks. Obviously, I lived. Thank God I lived. And I am not the same. I am changed. I have been beaten down because that is not fun. Illness has stolen many things from me, Dawn. Not my will to live because I'm still here, and certainly not my joy or happiness. Here I am moving my kid into college. But survivors out there, you know, we're never the same. We live in fear of our scans and our blood work. We think the other shoe is going to drop all the time. And we appreciate every day even more. Thank you, God, that I am here. Thank you, Dawn, for giving me this opportunity to talk and reconnect with my friend Dawn on the air even. And I'm grateful every single minute. It's true. So hopefully that was in a nutshell. The whole thing sucked, but I lived. We get to talk on the radio, on the podcast here.
In the summer of 1995, DVDs arrived in stores and Seinfeld dominated TV viewing. And a local Minnesota nature show called Minnesota Bound, hosted by Ron, Shara, and Raven the Black Lab, hit the air on Care 11 on NBC. We're celebrating 30 years of storytelling with a TV special on Sunday, August 17th. Check out mnbound.com for more information.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the strength that you have to find, even when you don't feel like you have it. I'll just manufacture strength at some point because I got to keep on going, whether it's for myself, my husband, my kids. I do remember that moment when you said that it came back and just that feeling that the bottom had dropped out. Yes. But I did not know that you made those videos for your kids.
I've never shown them to them, and God willing, I never will until I live a long, long life and die naturally or from whatever, but until they're much older. But yeah, those were hard things to do. But I felt like I had to do it, Dawn. You know, if I was going to die at 48, I had to give my kids something.
Absolutely. But to make those, how did you get through those? I just can't even imagine.
Girlfriend, I cried the whole time. I was in I had no hair. I mean, poor kids when they ever have to watch this. I mean, I'm hideous. You know, you're at your lowest, you're skinny, you're gaunt, you're full of chemo. I'm literally in the hospital. That's when I made the videos and opened up my computer because I was hospitalized. And by the way, sequestered, it was COVID. I forgot that. See, you forget the horrible things. You know, it was COVID. So at some point the nurses came in and said, Mark couldn't even come and visit. Nobody could visit me, Dawn. And I was in the hospital for weeks and weeks at a time. It was awful. Sorry, I digress, but I remember that now. Thinking about it jogs the memory.
But yes, I remember because no one could go visit you.
Yes, no one could go visit.
So that's what I mean. You had to manufacture that strength.
Mm-hmm. And per those videos, I just cried and just told them the God's honest truth and just reminded them how much I loved them. And, you know, prayed that was going to be enough to sustain them in their dark times, that I was still at least alive there trying to give advice from the Mayo Clinic.
Well, when we both hit 100, and it may not be red wine, it might have to be like grape juice or something back then.
Prune juice.
When we get prune juice, that's it. It may not be red wine, but we'll be clanging glasses of prune juice. That's what we'll be doing.
Amen, sister.
We're like, we made it. It's a Smucker's jar moment here for us. And these two girls from the East Coast have made it. Oh, my goodness.
That's right.
Well, I know that you say you don't call yourself a journalist anymore, but I believe still in my heart that once you are, you always are. So I thank you for carrying that torch. I've seen you as a mom and as a mother. I mean, as a mom and as a wife and daughter, I hope that people, if they haven't met you, they get to meet you in person because you're a dynamo. You're a joy. So you say it's changed you and that fear of scans and all of that, but somehow you still radiate strength and joy. And I want you to know that despite everything you've been through, that's still what I see and feel from Jordana Green. Like you're a source of all of that. And it just continues to emanate no matter how much you get knocked down. And I just want you to know that.
I'm crying now. You're going to have a bawling mess. Alex is going to have to edit this up because now I'm going to be sobbing.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that to you on the campus. You know, like who is that crazy lady crying in her car?
Sobbing. UGA. Well, I cherish our friendship. It's been so many years, and we've been through so many things together that sometimes people shouldn't go through. And I've watched your career soar. And you know, you say I radiate light. Well, it takes one to know one. Light sees light, my friend. And I'm just so happy for all of your successes and your longevity and our friendship.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Do you have any, excuse me, Alex is going to have to edit this out. I am crying.
Getting choked up.
I'm crying and choking up.
I know.
Do you have, as parting words, do you have any piece of advice that you would love to give to someone out there, you know, that's in a fight? Like maybe they're fighting cancer. Maybe they are being discriminated against. Maybe they're a victim of anti-Semitism. Is there anything that you can give them to hold on to that helped you?
Wow. That is a good question. And I do not claim to be the arbiter of, you know, positivity or wellness or anything, really, you know, motherhood, none of that. I've screwed up all of those things, but we've muddled through. But I guess it's, you know, in your heart, things that are truthful, you know, in your heart, what is the truth. And for me, it was that got me through was if this was to be my end, everyone is going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Then it means they don't need me anymore and they're going to be okay. But if they still need you you're going to be okay. And you're going to be able to be there for them. So hold on to that. Hold on to your truth, knowing that you've done the best you could in this life and whatever will be, will be. And that I think that's really it, that whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And I have to know that I've done the best I could, or I'm doing the best I could with every single day that I have. I have been given extra days. I have been granted extra days, whether that is because my kids need me more or I need to be a voice on the radio for, my people. Maybe that's it. But God, I hate giving advice because I'm faking it like the rest of you guys. But I would say, like, really hold on to your truth. That has been my guide for parenting. That has been my guide for being on the air, and for also accepting fate. That if it wasn't meant to be that I have more years, I have to accept that and understand that that's okay. And that if I was needed here to accomplish more things, that will happen also. So it's always been about truth for me. I guess that's my journalistic roots. It's important. And knowing your truth is important. Why are you here? What is your purpose? How can you help? And I would say just try to hold on to that.
Wow. Powerful words from a powerful woman, Jordana Green. Thank you so much. If you haven't listened to her show, check her out on WCCO Radio. It's amazing. Jordana, thank you for joining us. Please hug your third born. That's what we're calling her right now for these purposes. Hug your third born for me and enjoy this next step. Your youngest is flying the coop. I just love you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Girlfriend, you're the best. I love you so much. Love the podcast. And thank you for giving me the time today.
Oh, anytime. We'll have you back too. We could talk about our prune juice.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Jordana.